first of all, you have to understand this all is happening against a backdrop of a Republican Party and GOP crew that made mainstream theater of the Hillary Clinton private server possession. You'll remember she had a private server in her communications, and she was the Secretary of State, and they just dined out on that for the entire time they were, that Hillary Clinton was relevant. In the campaign against Hillary Clinton, they talked about it all the time. But you can't have this kind of carelessness around national security issues, all the rest. Tony, do you have this is a bit of what they were talking about when it was Hillary Clinton that was involved in keeping a private server.
The people we rely on to do dangerous and difficult thing for us rely on one thing from us.
I mean, this is Pete Hegseth speaking. Excuse me, for those just listening. This is Pete Hegseth speaking, who was on this signal list. Go ahead. Sorry, Tony.
We will not reveal their identity and not be reckless with what the dangerous things they're doing for us. That's the national security implications of a private server that's unsecured. That's why we look at a guy like Snowden and say, he's not a hero, he's a traitor. He put lives at risk, and you can get people killed when you do that. Let me be clear, to quote the president. Hillary Clinton, if it was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now. Correct. For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them, which means that individual and the others associated with them have been passing around through unsecure networks information, sources, and methods of people on the ground, covers compromised in real time. Yes. This is a real deal, full-blown national security scandal.
Betrayed her country in doing so, supposedly for convenience, but actually so she could have a different set of standards and hide her conduct and the conduct of the Clinton Foundation, Benghazi, everything else, so she could stay away from and above the law. And it turns out foreign services want to know what our Secretary of State thinks. The technology that others can use once they've got into devices is to listen and see in real time. Who knows what they heard and what they have, and the kind of leverage that gives in negotiations or conversations when you know what our hand is and you can anticipate it or get in front of it, or you know our sources and methods, because we know aides to Hillary Clinton also removed markings so that they could send classified, sometimes secret, top secret information to her personal email, which our enemies were potentially reading in real time. That has consequences, including lives and reputation of this great country.
I'm not surprised that a military guy like...
Thank you.
You would think that he would be a little more careful then, don't you?
I mean, this is really, I think, reflective of the fraud of the GOP and the fraud and political theater that they're involved in. I mean, this is just, they get the talking point. They get the dog with the bone. The bone in this case is Hillary Clinton's private server, and they do not let go of it. And day after day, all we heard about is her emails. Then we find, 1,300 top secret documents at Mar-a-Lago being kept in bathrooms, ballrooms. I mean, it's crazy. And now we find the utter carelessness and incompetence associated with truly top secret wartime communications that are shared recklessly with a journalist. I mean, it astounds me that their first move, of course, is denial. That's what Pete Hegseth did. He went for denial. Isn't that right, Tony?
Even though it had already been confirmed by someone at the Pentagon.
Right.
So, I mean, denial was fruitless at that point, because they already confirmed that was the exact threat, and that's exactly what happened.
He said this is a discredited reporter. He's been, widely discredited. He's, and of course, he was, as Kim says, he was sort of behind the information. It had already been confirmed. And again, included in all of this is, the outrage and ire that was directed toward Hillary Clinton on the private servers by Marco Rubio, who is the Secretary of State. Play a little bit of that, Tony, please.
When I'm president of the United States, neither she nor any of these other people are going to be above the law, whether it's her or Eric Holder for what he did on Fast and Furious or any of these other folks. People are going to be held accountable if they broke the laws of this country. This president obviously is willing to protect his political cronies, but we're going to hold people accountable. Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is.
John.
Yeah. So this is what happens.
You remember that show? I was thinking about this last night. I had to look up the name, Benny Hill.
Sure,
Benny Hill?
of course.
My grandpa. I caught my grandpa watching that once. I think when I was a little kid. It's the first time I ever saw boobs on TV. But they have this like bumbly music where they're all like rolling around and making stupid mistakes and falling all over each other. The Benny Hill show is what this group reminds me of. A bunch of foolish people that just can't quite figure out what's going on.
I feel as though they are playing government. They're not really governing. They're playing government. I know Trump is doing that. I mean, that's what he is. He's essentially a host. He's a bit of an actor, comedian. You know, he's that kind of guy. He's charismatic. People don't want, to hear that, but he is. And he's a salesman. That's how he achieved life in the Oval Office a second time. But when it actually comes to governance, these people are not really about it in any kind of serious way. And I'd suggest to you, this is what you get when you hire loyalists. You don't hire competence. You hire people who are loyal to you. So you get low-grade people at all of these positions. Pam Bondi shouldn't be running the Justice Department. I mean, Kash Patel shouldn't be running the FBI. I mean, these are low-grade kinds of people who have expressed such loyalty to Trump that they end up in these positions. And so with Pete Hegseth, he's a true junkyard dog on television. If you've watched him, he's great. You've just seen him. I mean, he's great at, pursuing the argument and in this sort of aggressive, angry way, calling out the opposition and defending Trump. Well,
he couldn't even run nonprofits. He couldn't even run very small nonprofit, business organizations. And you're going to put him into the Pentagon, running the biggest outfit in the United States government. I mean, who saw that this problem was coming?
So, Tony, now to, if you will, I think I have, what's next? Help me. I have some clips lined up. And I thought I had Jeffrey Goldberg, if you want to run that now. No, I have let's run the Tulsi stuff. Yeah, this is Tulsi at the hearing. This is just going on just a few minutes ago. This is the hearing underway after the Intel chat leaks. Go ahead.
They got him in there fast.
Yeah.
Back to what I
this is stop. I'm sorry. Just to Kim's point. No, they didn't get them in there fast. This is a pre-scheduled hearing.
Oh, okay.
And they have just now brought this up now. They just happen all to be there. It's quite
convenient.
Lucky. Yeah. Go ahead.
Fortuitous.
This was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information, could reposition their defensive systems. So I want to get a little more information about this. Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat.
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
Director Radcliffe, were you on the group chat?
Senator, I was on a signal messaging group.
So you were the John Ratcliffe on that chat?
I was.
Thank you.
Can I provide some context, Senator, to that?
Yes, but I've got a series of questions.
Well, but I think it's important because at the outset, you made a couple of comments about signal messaging using encrypted apps. So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
Director Ratcliffe, I've got a series of questions. If you're making the statement, if you're making the statement, the signal is a secure channel.
No, can I answer that? It is.
I've got a series
end-to-end encryption. So to finish,
I understand encryption.
It is permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided, Senator, that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels. Right. So those were procedures that were implemented. My staff implemented those processes, followed those processes, complied with those processes, and finally, just please. So my communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we will make that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. Let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information.
One point I just want to make, stop for a second, Tony. Or let me make 2 points quickly. First of all, it's wild how they want nothing to do with Joe Biden and the Biden administration, the incompetent Biden administration, except now they're saying this was, okay under the last administration. This is where we got the idea, et cetera. The second thing is, and it was important, they kind of skipped past it quickly, was, all of these conversations do have to be recorded. They have to be archived. You don't have conversations that are related with top national security officials related to wartime events that aren't recorded and archived. It doesn't mean that you have access from the public to those conversations, but they do have to be archived. That's the law. All right. So the idea somehow that you're on this app and that everybody's communicating outside what is the basic governmental regulatory structure on these conversations, that's not cool. I mean, that's against the law. So we'll finish up here. Oh, sorry, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say that John Bolton, who was the former national security advisor, I believe, he says signal is not equivalent to U.S. government secure telecommunications, and it should not be used in this way.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, exactly the point. Go ahead.
And set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after the specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a SCIF?
There was no classified material that was shared in that.
So then if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer the question. If this was Director Gabbard, if this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that.
Ma'am, if there's no classified materials, share. And then if there's no classified materials, then you can't even answer the question whether you're on the chat. This is strangely familiar, and I think my colleagues will remember, when you couldn't answer the question, is Edward Snowden a traitor? Ma'am, I have serious doubts about anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is just doing I don't know what that is, some kind of, the two-step, which she got very good at as a Fox News pundit. But she is, I'm sorry, I mean, she's incompetent. And she's, again, she's a Trump loyalist. She'll sing from the hymnal, and that's the only reason she is there. That's the only reason all of them are there, and that's what you get when you hire loyalists. You get questionable competence at best, and in this case, total lack of competence. Now, finally, Jeffrey Goldberg, he is the journalist who received this information because he was inadvertently added to this list of top national security officials. Here he is talking about it on CNN.
Saying that nobody was texting war plans, given you were privy to this group chat. Is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel. But no, they were plans for the attack. And they were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, you know, he if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
But his attempt at a denial also stood out to me because no one that I talked to at the White House today argued this or tried to say these were, you know, misconstrued or altered or this is not real. I mean, the National Security Council confirmed the veracity of it.
The National Security Council, I asked various officials, including Pete Hegseth this morning, for comment. And the first question I had for everyone is this real? I wanted to make sure, obviously, before we go public, and say, are you sure that this is not a disinformation campaign run by a foreign state, a non-state actor of some sort, trying to target a journalist for reasons I couldn't explain? And they're like, no, this is apparently a real channel, and I appreciate them telling the truth about that, and we published.
Did they seem alarmed when you reached out for comment?
Probably is not the happiest day that they experienced in the White House so far, but they were professional about it.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting something that he kind of alluded to there. You'll remember, those of you who were with us yesterday, in the Atlantic piece, he talked about the fact that he was 100% sure that this was not real because the specifics on wartime plans for Yemen were so detailed that he knew it couldn't be real because there's no way that U.S. government officials would be sharing with a journalist these kinds of details. It has to be a fake. So he thought it was, again, non-state actor, any number of ways in which he could have received this. And he thought the whole thing was phony until he started to see the back and forth between everybody who was included in this group chat. And then he realized, oh my God, this is a real thing.
And he said the attack went down 2 hours after the discussion, and he knew it was for real. And that's when they're lucky it was him. They're lucky that, because any other journalist, not any other, but other journalists might have thought, oh, I'm not going to leave this chat. When he realized what they were talking about and that these were the Trump officials, he left the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Kim is so right. Many would have stayed with it all the way. There are many ways you could justify staying with it all the way. But he got out of it. He felt it was just too sensitive. He shouldn't have been there, and he didn't want to be there. But now, of course, he's being vilified by the president. That's what you do. You attack him. You discredit him.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.